Phone battery tests, they suck. It's a little bit like watching paint dry. Battery test videos can be quite boring, so I thought I'd try something different for you. Rather than putting you through unrealistic ways of testing a phone, don't get me wrong, I do get the importance of just draining the battery and seeing which one dies first. But that's been done to death, and you probably won't be surprised by the results. So what I thought would be more interesting and a bit more realistic was to really use the phones in various different situations and show you how both devices performed in a fairly normal day-to-day usage. I say normal, I did have some settings turned on like full brightness, and I did babysit the phones for hours, which I normally wouldn't do. But this is the closest I could get to a normal day. Both devices are on the same network, EE in the UK. Why is this important? Well, most people have SIM cards inside their phones. Facts. Testing a phone battery without a SIM card can lead us to the wrong conclusion. Connecting to a cellular network consumes a lot of power. And whilst I appreciate these big YouTube channels are struggling to get ad revenue right now and not enough brand deals, I thought I'd go the extra mile. So I bought another SIM card. £10. No expenses spared. But 5G is not on. Not because phones can't support 5G, but mainly because I don't live 20 meters away from a 5G antenna. And jokes aside, I do understand what the other channels are trying to do. I'm not knocking them, but I have seen some big channels testing S21 Ultra against an iPhone, one with a SIM card, the other one without. And I'll just leave it there. I will also show you in this video how fast these phones can recharge the batteries after they've been drained to 0%. The other thing that I did, which is not realistic, but I think there's a good reason behind it, was to close all the apps before starting each section of my day. So before the afternoon and before the evening, I closed all the apps. This is not to fake a result, but more to reduce the blame on the apps. But aren't they the same apps? The look and feel might be the same, but who knows what is really going on at the code level of every single app? How many app updates do we get every week saying performance improvements? So closing all the apps before each part of the day was a way to minimize one of the apps hogging the CPU or draining the battery because of a bug, and that would make this battery test video more about how the apps consume battery rather than how the battery performs. Here are some other ground rules for this test which I think are important for you to know, so I'll mention them here. Both phones are running the latest respective software. I fully charge the devices as I normally do overnight, and I start the tests around 6 AM the following day. Inside the house, both devices are connected to my Wi-Fi network, but I do take the phones outside during the test because that's what people do. They go out and they drive around, so I do that during the test as well. When I'm outside, I do not connect them to my earbuds, but I had the volume set to 30% on both for watching content, listening to podcasts or driving, etc. I turned off my Apple Watch as well for that day. Why? Because same reason as the SIM card, it consumes battery on the Bluetooth. I did leave notifications on both devices. I set night shift and bedtime mode on both phones to the same time at 11:45 PM. The S21 Ultra uses adaptive motion smoothness, which automatically changes the refresh rate to 120 Hz when needed. For this test, I left motion smoothness set to adaptive and brightness set to full, and I left adaptive brightness on. The keyboard's haptics as well, they're both turned on because that's how it comes out of the box, and I guess that's how people would use. If I typed a tweet or a post on Instagram, I would basically post twice, once on each device to keep it fair. Hence the weird posting if you follow me on Instagram. If I took a photo or did a video, I did that on both devices as well, except on 8K because the iPhone can't do 8K. So for this test, I used 4K 60 frames per second. Enough of the rules, let's crack on. I wake up around 6:30. The first thing I do after turning off my alarm is to check my channel. So I check TubeBuddy, YouTube Studio, just to check how my latest videos are doing. This is not sponsored, by the way. There are other tools like vidIQ, checking in on comments that you lovely people left me, how many of you liked my videos, and so on. I also check my work calendar to get ready for the day ahead. I then do the most important thing of every morning, which is make coffee. And while I'm doing that and having some breakfast, I'm catching up with my favorite YouTube videos, some guilty pleasures here, like watching scammers getting caught. I love that. And also some videos from my fellow creators in the tech community from the TYU. It's also a good time to check in on WhatsApp. For this test, I added my second SIM card to a couple of my chats so that every time I use WhatsApp on one phone, I do the same on the other, just to make sure I'm spending the same amount of time on that application. I then check in on Instagram for a few minutes, and Twitter as well is another app that I use constantly throughout the day. Nightmare. With a first bit of coffee now well within my bloodstream, this is when I start to use my productivity tools. Makes me sound very organized, I know. I am trying. I use a combination of apps to plan my day. Shameless plug here as well for you to check my productivity series after this video. I use Notion, for example, and Taskade for planning my YouTube activities, and also Evernote, mainly for writing scripts. In the first few hours of the morning during most weekdays, I have a few conference calls, so for my 9 to 5 work. Some actually start before 9 o'clock, but during these 4 hours or so, I'm not really checking my phone too much. But occasionally, in between meetings, I might log into my accounting software, have a quick look at my Coinbase status. I don't have a lot in there, it's just a bit of fun. I go on Amazon, check on my personal emails, and also read the news if I really want to depress myself. But I counter that with a bit of WhatsApp again, just to lift me up. And the tech community we have here on YouTube, called TYU, are always there on a daily basis, sharing a ton of knowledge and useful conversations. Like this one. Yeah, just like that one. If I'm reviewing a product that week, I'm also using the camera on the phone to take some close-up shots of that product. At around 10 a.m, the iPhone was at 88% and the S21 Ultra was at 86%, so fairly neck and neck at this stage. Right now, like everybody else, I'm helping with homeschooling, and when my wife is at work, I take over. So something else I might do is I use Google or Microsoft Math Solver, because who the hell can remember how to use fractions and equations? Other than the occasional browsing, the phones will stay idle during this time whilst I work away on my laptop. By 12 o'clock, the iPhone was at 77% and the S21 Ultra was at 80%. Again, pretty similar usage up until this point. Between 12 and 2 p.m. is usually when I stop for lunch. If I do get a break, I might check a few YouTube videos as well during this time and even play a game or two. I will be doing a dedicated gaming video, so I won't get into too much detail here. I don't really play a lot of games on my phone, but here you can see me getting killed by teenagers online. I mean, having fun on PUBG. I also check in with my productivity apps and see how I am doing with my tasks for that day. Between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m, I tend to have a few more work calls, but I might spend a few minutes on Amazon, Twitter, checking news apps and WhatsApp as well, just in between meetings or coffee breaks. If I do get an afternoon break, I'll go for another short walk, or I might use this time to do some errands in town and things around the house. I'm always with my phone. I could be taking photos, checking Twitter, or posting on Instagram during this time as well. For this video, every time I posted something, I made sure that I used both devices equally. At around 2 p.m, the iPhone was at 63% usage and the S21 Ultra was at 69%. Taking photos and videos do consume a lot of battery, so I took a few more than I normally do, and I did a bit more social networking as well than normal. So by 3 p.m, the iPhone got down to 45% and the S21 Ultra had 55% left. And by 4 p.m, the iPhone was 39% and the S21 Ultra at 51%. So the difference started to grow a bit in the afternoon. Between 4 and 5 o'clock, this is when my work starts to wind down, together with my caffeine levels as well. During this time, I also tend to do some focused work and any other admin tasks that I have left for that day. I use this app called Forest, which basically locks the phone for 25 minutes. And during those 25 minutes each time, it's focused work, no interruptions. So between 5 and 6, this is typically when I log off from work and I take the dog for another walk. I might take more photos, shoot more videos, check in on socials again. And by 5:30 p.m, the iPhone was at 29% and the S21 Ultra was at 46% still. Between 6 and 8 p.m, this time is family time, and especially during the week, it's phone off time. Not really off, but I'm not really checking it during that time. We have dinner and relax before going through bedtime routine. And this is not always a peaceful time, and even though it would make for a very entertaining video, I will leave that for another day. Maybe one day I'll start a vlog or something. I did use my phone during this time for the test, so I took the opportunity to use some online learning tools like LinkedIn Learning and Udemy, as well as checking TED Talks for a bit. At around 8 p.m, my son is asleep and I start to catch up again on social, sports, watch some TV, or catch a movie with my wife. I have to say, after a day of looking at 2 mobile phones with full brightness, I was done when I got to this time. Normally, during this time is when I tend to do most of my YouTube work as well, and most days, I'm very active online during this time. I might be writing a script on my laptop whilst keeping in check with Twitter and responding to comments on YouTube, as well as checking my analytics on YouTube Studio. Between 11 and midnight is wind down time. I will do very light social media stuff, listen to podcasts, maybe do some light reading as well. I use this alarm app called Sleep Cycle, which is great and much more than just an alarm app. It actually comes with mindfulness sessions as well to help you get ready for bed, but it does use quite a bit of battery. Typically, both phones are still going strong at this time, so I don't worry too much, but that wasn't the case on this battery test day. Of course, I had the screen set to full brightness and used the phones quite a bit more than normal. So by 11:30 p.m, when I went to bed, the S21 Ultra had 17% left and the iPhone 12 Pro Max was almost dead at 5%. And by the morning next day, they were both completely dead. But how long does it take for them to charge back up? I'm glad you asked, because it also depends on a few things like the adapters you're using and the method of charging. So I used fast charging capable adapters, but in different scenarios. On the first scenario, I used a USB-C cable to charge the S21 Ultra and the MagSafe charger to charge the iPhone. On the second scenario, I used a wireless charger to charge the S21 Ultra and the USB-C cable to Lightning to charge the iPhone. I'm just trying to replicate what most people would do. I used a 20-watt adapter from Anker, linked up below. It's awesome. And also from Anker was the wireless charger. They sell a great bundle, which I really recommend. The S21 Ultra supports super fast charging of up to 45 watts, but that's going to be a different video. On the first scenario, the S21 Ultra was fully charged after 1 hour 41 minutes, so just over 100 minutes in total. The 12 Pro Max took 1 hour 52 minutes to get to 80% and 3 hours 10 minutes to get to 100% using the MagSafe charger. On the second scenario, this time using the Lightning cable for the iPhone and using a wireless charger for the S21 Ultra, the results are slightly different. So this time the iPhone got to 80% in 54 minutes and was fully charged in 1 hour 54 minutes. The S21 Ultra on the wireless charger took 2 hours 55 minutes, 15 minutes faster than the MagSafe performance in the previous scenario. Very interesting. So where does that leave us? Well, even though both phones lasted all day, the S21 Ultra still had quite a bit of juice left in the tank at the end of the day. And yes, it has a 5000 mAh battery cell against the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which has a 3687 mAh battery cell. It's considerably smaller. Because the S21 Ultra has extra features that draw battery power like the always-on display, the adaptive 120Hz, we have again a clear winner on this year's flagships, and it is the S21 Ultra. Of course, I did a traditional battery test as well. It's not the most exciting bit of footage, as you can see, but I will leave it here. Similar setup, both phones on full brightness, SIM card inserted on the same network, same screen timeout, same volume, location services on, and notification settings on as well. In summary, both phones were neck and neck, within less than 5% between them throughout the test. After a grueling 6 hours and 52 minutes, for the phones and me, the S21 Ultra died. And about 15 minutes later, the iPhone died. And this is why I wanted to do a more realistic test, including idle times, taking the phones outside the house, and using it in a more true-to-life way. If you missed the first 2 rounds, they can be found here, and I'll see you and your lovely smiling faces in the next one. Don't forget to, and the bell as well. Bye.